Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, hello. Good evening. Hey, Sharnetta, how are you? I had a long day, but it wasn't a bad day, so that's still good. Whew. We will give tonight's founder a minute to get in. Yes, it was a productive day. It was. It was. I need to change my, I feel like I'm looking to the side instead of to the camera. Let me get myself situated here. Hold on one second. Okay, that might be a little better. At least I can look up at the camera. Like I could change. Well, it's obvious I'm in a hotel room, right, y'all? I was saying, was there a better place to set up? But it's really not. Yeah. Oh, wow. But that's definitely better because I'm actually looking at the camera now. I felt like I was looking off to the side. Hello, everyone. See you guys coming in. Hey, Miss Vanessa. Hello, T-Shine. How are you? Oh, you're low. Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry, my volume is low. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. You were sounding all romantic. You were like,
Oh, no. No. I turn things down because I have so many things going on and it's loud and
I understand. I understand.
wow,
Oh,
get this together.
yeah. Hopefully, I don't lose. I'm at 100%, but Zoom sucks the energy and the way I have to position this. I can't put the little thingy up under it. So if I get to fidgeting later, just ignore me because that means the battery is going down, and I'm like, bro. Hello, everyone. I see you guys coming in. Thank you so much for joining us. While we're waiting for our guests to come, as you can see, I am away from home, traveling a little. And I'm excited about tonight's session. Brian came highly recommended. He's going to talk to us about business acquisitions. And so this conversation, even though I was traveling a little bit, I didn't want to miss it. And my schedule allowed me to kind of make time for it, even though I was away. So thank you guys for making time for us as well. Keyshawn, did you have a good day today?
No,
No. I'm sorry.
I didn't have a pretty good day Wednesday, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. I'm not gonna just lie and say it was. It just wasn't.
Oh no,
but
I don't. Yeah, I don't want you. You don't got
yeah,
a lot of juice
hey,
for sure. Yeah,
it's
I'm
a
the
good
last
thing.
person you got
It's
to lie
like
to.
the Groundhog Day experience continues. It is the same day as it always is, but I'm making progress, I guess. The
Good,
ebooks are done. One
good,
more to go.
good, good, good. Did anybody get affected by the earthquake? Are you guys okay? My West Coast people, are you guys fine? I had to call my son because he is in LA. And LA people, I guess because they're so used to it. He was like, yeah, it was a 4.7. We're fine. I'm like, what? Like 4.7 is that's
Well, that's
big.
just a rumble. That's not, yeah, that's not anything shaking the house.
4.7 is significant. And he just kind of said it like, yeah. It's just like, oh my goodness. Oh, we're all a little early, but hopefully our guest will join us soon. I do have a hard stop. So hopefully,
I just texted him again, well, emailed him again.
so hopefully we can get started. I don't want to have to pop off, but I do have to go right at 7. So hello, Miss Mavis. Good to see you guys here. Happy Monday. Hello, Tawana. Talisha talked briefly for those of you who were on when she said she's working on some ebooks. So we are revamping our website and we're adding a marketplace with some really, really good items that I think people are going to really be able to benefit from. And so we're really excited. We've entered into some partnerships as well. That's going to be exciting to talk about when we launch. So fun times. I saw Dante Lee. I don't know if you guys know Dante Lee, blackpr.com. He posted something, I think it was yesterday, and he said the average Black business only stays in business for, let me rephrase that. He said 20 to 30% of Black businesses, 20 to 30% of Black businesses only stay in business for 5 years. And so as we approach the 5-year mark, I'm inspired and excited that we're looking at what does that phase in business look like for us. And for us, it looks like a marketplace where we enhance the offerings that we give and really, really give people that tangible item that they need, the plan, that physical plan they need to accomplish a goal. So we've got several ebooks out there that are really, really, really good, really, really good. But they're good guides and give you the step-by-step on how to accomplish things. And so I know that was meaningful for us to provide because we do a really good job talking about the thing, right? We come here every week and we talk about the thing, but we've never given you the roadmap to take away and actually do the thing. So really, really excited about what that phase is going to look like. Here's our guest. Hello, Brian. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll jump right in because we want to be respectful of your time. Brian, I'm Tawana Rivers, the CEO of the 10K Project. This is Talisha Shine, and we are so excited to have you join us. We are a community of investors and wealth builders, and every week we bring someone amazing to the 10K Project community to kind of talk a little bit about wealth building and give us some strategies and introducing us to a thing. Most of the time it's a new thing. In this situation, it's not a new topic. It's something that Talisha and I know very well. We have a micro private equity business. We've bought a few businesses. Some went well, some went terribly wrong. So we're excited to talk to you tonight, and share this side of business, right? The acquisition of business with them as we talk to you. And for the community members, as you guys are coming in, Brian has a winning strategy for acquiring businesses. It has allowed him to make $15 million over the last 5 years acquiring businesses. And so I want Brian to talk a little bit about that and tell us what that winning strategy is, if he can share it. But Brian, please talk to us a little bit about your background. Tell us who you are. Tell us how you even got into buying businesses.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the patience with me being fashionably late, not
Okay.
TP time. So
it's all good. And we're laid back here, so it's all good.
All good. Great to meet everybody, Brian. I will say that, like, if you have all these important, impressive people on, you definitely hit a speed bump with me. So thanks for making space. I've spent like the greater part of 20 years in M&A or leverage buyouts in some form or fashion. I started my career out on Wall Street at a private equity firm, doing the grunt work of analyst and associate stuff. So valuing companies, researching, learning the nuts and bolts of like what makes an investment work. And then I transitioned out of that in the same firm to the operating team, which worked with the portfolio companies to execute some of the business plans once we bought them. And so for me, what I was intending to design there was kind of a holistic experience of understanding what creates value, right? Like, what do investors and active shareholders look for when they're evaluating an opportunity, and like how to do that work. And then also, like, how do you actually make money? Like, it's one thing to sit in an office and like look at this stuff on a spreadsheet and make these quote unquote objective decisions. And it's another to really understand hands-on how you influence, navigate, and on the fly decide how to acquire or how to make decisions that impact the business and bottom line. So that's what I did. I most recently bought my own company, did a whole turnaround of the business. I sold it for a meaningful return. Just one correction. I think you probably saw somewhere in my bio that it was like, I've put $15 million to work. I don't got $15 million, so don't ask me for no money. We definitely made some money in this sale, but not 15. You know, I would have more buttons unbuttoned if it was 15.
Okay.
So,
Understood.
it's all good. But yeah, so just a little bit about that business. It was an HOA management business called Hill & Company. We acquired it in 2019 from folks who were retiring. It was myself and another guy who was a fraternity brother of mine. And we were like, look, let's just buy this company and see what happens. So he was also an ex-private equity guy. So we kind of understood what we were trying to accomplish and spoke the same language. But we were fully on the hook for this thing. So we bought it. COVID started like 3 months after we bought it. Great. Thankfully, and property management is effectively an essential business, so we had to keep operating. But because this was a founder-built business, it had what I like to call deferred technical maintenance. So it's just not a very modern business. You know, there wasn't really a great email system, there wasn't great file storage or like, you know, data sharing. So we never really knew what was happening at property A versus property B. So we started fixing all that. It helped us assess who was doing work well, who wasn't. It helped us lower our cost of operating. It helped us differentiate because people could really see what they were paying for, which is something you don't always get, particularly in property management companies. And ultimately, we improved the customer service along with the profitability, and then just like enjoyed the business operating a little better. We were able to bring in an operator to kind of take the reins. And then we got the attention of some people who decided to write us an offer we couldn't refuse. So we sold the business about 2.5 years after we bought it, which is great. Like, the IRR doesn't make sense on the exit, but we definitely did well. And yeah, man, we learned a ton from that. You know, as part of that, like $15 million that I put to work, I was at a venture capital backed company running growth, and we bought 12 businesses in 2 years there as well. So I've done $4 billion of transactions at an institutional level. I've done a lot of transactions at a small business level, and there are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of differences. And happy to talk through all of that. But I will tell you the one deal I lost money on was a vending machine acquisition. So if you're thinking about buying vending machines because you're seeing all this like boring business talk out there, we should definitely talk first.
Okay. We may need to come back and talk about that. We've actually had a session on vending machine businesses. So that, yeah, we'll have to talk about that. But in regards to the business acquisition, so take us from the beginning. Like, how do you decide what kind of business is a good business to consider buying, right? I mean, I know you don't happen upon, right? How did that process go, and what made this business a good business for you?
Yeah. So the number one thing that like there are going to be all these things that people will tell you. You can like read, you can ask ChatGPT this question and they'll say like high margin, profitability, defensible industry, hopefully growing industry, fragmented competition, recurring revenue, all this stuff. There's a lot of buzzwords that are useful. And I think that those are all real, right? Like if you're going to put together a metric or like a rubric of investment criteria, you want on there like decent profit margin, you want on there like a certain revenue size, you want on there like a stable industry. It's hard to buy a startup, right? Like you go on some of these websites and they're selling like e-commerce startups or drop shipping businesses and stuff like that. And they've had a couple of years of existence. You don't know how solid the customer relationships are or the sourcing, the supply chain relationships and stuff like that. So there's a lot of risk in newer businesses. So there's all that. What I tell people, and the thing I like to spend a lot of time when I'm just talking one-on-one with folks on is like what the founder or like the buyer and the business fit is. And that's really critical because everyone talks a lot about like product market fit and all this, and it's all about the business and the market. But when you're buying a business, whether you're actively owning it or it's like on the side, unless you are like a true limited partner, you're going to have some involvement in the day to day. And like, you got to ask yourself, do I want that? Is this the life I want? And so going back to the vending machine business, I bought that business and it was intended to be a passive, like low energy activity. I bought that business like right before my oldest child was born. So this was like 7.5 years ago, 8 years ago. And it's funny, man. Because like I was like, cool, I should be able to just like invest a couple hours a week just picking up food and doing all this stuff. And that was kind of true, but then I also had like stacks of Doritos in the house, in the nursery room. Had to get a car, which I don't like driving. I hadn't had a car since I left Houston. I went to Morehouse, I went to New York, came to California. I was just like, did not have a car until we got this business. And that in particular was a big challenge because I was trying to keep a day job. And so every time I would leave to go deal with the machines, I'd have to like figure out how to schedule around my day job. And B, like the customer experience, like people took the service of the machines so seriously, even though it was like, it's a vending machine. So like, I could say, hey, I'll come out and fix that tomorrow. But then people, especially in the Bay Area, would like lose their minds. So then it would become like a in real time service experience. And, this business was, you could argue, was big enough for me to say like, I could hire a handyman or somebody to go do that. But that would require me giving them the keys. And in a business like that, it's mostly cash. So if I'm then doing that, then I'm risking loss. So either from product or from money, right? Like, cause like we've all had if you've ever opened a vending machine, you've thought about taking a honey bun. Like, let's just not lie to ourselves. So that being said, then I just like decided to move that off of my plate, not because it wasn't working, not because the fundamentals were off, but it was because it just didn't work for my lifestyle, even as a semi-passive opportunity. And so that like business owner to business and industry fit's really important because a lot of people are going to come from highly professional services type businesses, right? You're going to have white collar jobs, and coming from law firms or marketing at a local consumer products business and then buying a dog boarding business or a concrete pouring business. Like you just end up dealing with very different employees, very different experiences, very different customer experiences. And so you have to be really clear about yourself, not only that you are capable of dealing with that, but that you also have a unique and unfair advantage to apply to that space, which is the other thing that people don't talk a lot about. The people who have been doing this a really long time tend to have some kind of ace up their sleeve, right? It may be, as an example, like I bought a dog boarding business, but my wife happens to be like a really big dog influencer on Instagram. And so I have an unfair advantage in owning this business because we have a marketing channel nobody else has. Or in the context of like what I'm doing right now with my fund, there's another fund that started around the same time as us with a different strategy. But my point of jealousy with them is they have one of the partners is a podcaster in the industry. And so he's like, people just bring deals to him all the time. And their approach is like, we're going to build an index of the market. So we just want to place bets on all the best people across the market. Well, they're going to see them all because they all come to talk to him.
Right.
So that's unfair. And like, you think about how we talk about, so-and-so in politics is kicking money to their friend. That happens everywhere. So like that's the kind of advantage you want to have with this kind of stuff. And so just going back to Hill and Company, for me, the venture-backed business that I bought 12 companies at was a residential property management business.
Okay.
So in buying this one, I was already familiar with the industry. I understood the local laws. And the most important thing about it was being able to have staff, right? It's a high turnover industry. And I knew that I could pull a bunch of people to come work for me tomorrow. And so if everybody quit, I was like, I can backfill this. And they didn't all quit tomorrow, but I worked a bunch of people out due to performance and then brought in really great people that I'd worked with before. And that helped improve the business overall. So like those are the kind of things in the back of your mind as you're evaluating these opportunities. You really got to think about like, how can I add a differentiated opportunity set for this company that nobody else can? So I should own it. And like, then if I'm not just a limited partner, do I really want to get these phone calls and like deal with this?
Yeah, I love that. So I love, first of all, you went in, you looked at the systems they had in place, right? You took care of that. You got somebody to operate it, but you didn't step away. So I love that you still worked in the business. One of the businesses or a couple of the businesses that we bought, we got in thinking we were going to be passive, right? Absentee owners. And the lesson that we learned, if we didn't learn anything else, is that there is no such thing as an absentee owner, right? It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was the lesson that we learned. And I love how you got in the business and worked the business and made it better, right? So then you were able 2.5 years to sell it. Talk about that process of improving the business and being able to make a profit on it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that comes up for me a lot is people will say, Brian, like you don't have like an industry expertise. And that's to a certain extent true. The private equity firm I was at focused on healthcare, business services, and technology. It's fairly broad. And since then, like I've run growth at a fintech company, I've run growth at a property management company, and like bought my own property management company. I've also invested in or run wine store businesses. I was at a diagnostic lab for a while. Like it's like the most obscure business that I worked with. Like a couple of packaging businesses, cookie business. So it's been all over the map. But what I have developed over time is a portfolio of mental models and case studies of best practices across like a dozen industries. So for me, I always come in with this intuition around what best practice could look like based on the type of business that the thing is. So in this instance, property management generally is about logistics and it's about customer service. It's almost like the Zappos customer service team, right? Like, hey, somebody calls and like, I didn't get my shoes. Oh, we're sorry. Like, let me make you super happy and then get a thing to you really quickly. And so so when I thought about it in that way, like, how do we make sure that customers email, text, call, and feel like they got amazing service? And then we stay so coordinated that the logistics can get a plumber there or get a architect there or make sure that a permit is filed at City Hall or in the state or whatever, consistently and efficiently. Then I was able to say, like, all right, based on how I understand the best of these kind of businesses to work, these are the things we need to put in place. For example, like, we need to have some accountability across the processes so we know where balls are dropped. And then we know if we're trying to get a plumber from point A to point B, we know Brian was supposed to text the plumber a day ago, and that's why he's late. So Brian, here's a reminder, get them to text. And so we implemented systems around that and routines around that. That took training, right? Like, not everybody knows and has been exposed to this stuff. So that took me and the team training people on how these things worked and what would be really useful for them. It took some it took some awareness of like what else is going on and like what other best practices could be available. So I was bringing that. It also takes some humility because, like, you're gonna mess stuff up. Like, not all the rollouts went perfectly or are stuck. And I think one of the things, especially with taking over an existing business, that you have to be mindful of is when you're stepping into how people were doing their thing, you need to be thoughtful about give and taking with what you're trying to push on them versus what they just feel comfortable with. So it's like, look, if you are used to using this yellow notepad, fine. Can you just enter like these two things into this project management system? Like, that's all I need you to do. Or send me a text with these couple of points. Like, keep all the rest of it in your notepad. Just like send me a picture of the notepad. I don't care.
Right.
Just like
Right.
just like help me out here. So there's a give and take there as you assert and implement ownership practices that are better and different than what they've done. So I'd say that that's for sure. Like, not like, and that's been the interesting thing, Tawana, is that not everybody I've worked with or invested alongside has seen all these best practices. So I've had to learn to bridge what's going on in my mind. And like, when I step into a place and I see, oh, this is like really this kind of a business. It's a, manufacturing business, or it's a, logistics business, or it's a, software business, or it's a it's a rental business. Like, when I see those businesses, then the way things should be organized like illustrates clearly in my head, but not everybody's seen that. So then I have to take a level deeper and explain to people, here are 3 companies that function in this space. This one does this one really well for these reasons. This one doesn't do it really well for the opposite reasons. And so we're trying to aspire to be like that. And so even though this isn't the exact same business in the exact same industry, when we peel back the face of the thing, we can see the bones look exactly the same. And then people are more willing to get on the team and then actually like follow some of the instructions.
Very, very good. Talisha, did you have any questions before I jumped in and asked another one?
And I think it was the question about changing the systems, because I know that is a big aspect of rolling into a new business and instantly wanting to add new technology or something more efficient, specifically if the business is old. And you talked about going in there and trying from the notepad on, but how do you revamp an entire system knowing that it has to be like something has to be changed immediately so you see the profitability? How do you approach that situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would be cautious about doing deals where you gotta have like overnight transition. Our plan was to do like one thing a month, basically.
Okay.
Now, the problem, Talisha, is that we had COVID happen. So then it was like, it needs to be one thing a day, basically. We never waste a crisis. That helped us move faster. But in a perfect world, like, the biggest risk in any deal, whether it's an acquisition or merger or whatever, is the change management from before to after, right? And let's just be plain here, right? There's the you don't look like my last boss before and after part of this. There's the you're younger than my last boss part of this. And then there's obviously the like you're having me do things differently than my last boss part of this. And so all those first 2 things, though, create a lot of subtext for the last point. And it's really important that you have a high amount of EQ, or have somebody on the team that has high EQ, to not only be aware of that and be sensitive to it, but then to navigate and message it in a way that's effective for people to adopt. And that might be also recognizing that the pace that you're implementing things is too fast or too complicated for those people to absorb. And I'll tell you, so two things. One, when I left the private equity firm, one of the things I did before like fully leaving the ecosystem was I went to go launch a division at one of the companies. And I'd already like transitioned to the operating teams. I've been on there for a few years. And so one of the partners was like, hey man, I just want to tell you, you're going to get down to this company in North Carolina. And, you know, you're used to being around people who are stay up late to do their work, who dot I's and cross T's and just like obsess over font size and, you know, editing colors. And you're going to get there. And like one of the most important things people are going to care about is like painting their house. And you have to find a way to be successful in that context. And I was like, I heard him, but I didn't feel it until the end of my first week at this company where I walked out of my office and I was talking to somebody at the end of the hall. And I was like, hey, like, what are you going to be doing this weekend? She's like, oh man, I can't wait. We're putting new tile in the bathroom. I'm leaving early to go start. Like, cool. So that's for sure one. And then second, like my father-in-law is retired military, and I talked to him a lot about how military structures work, in particular because the military is very autocratic. It's like, I say it, you do it. But I was asking him, I was like, man, that never really goes well for people, right? So there's got to be something I'm missing that's making the military still effective at scale. And he was making this point to me that the purpose of those mid-level people, even the officers, is to sell the orders. So the generals and, you know, the top brass decide the plan, decide the priorities, but the folks in the middle are responsible for selling it in the context of whatever team they're selling it to. So, and that goes back to the EQ point I was making earlier. It's not always about like what you're asking them to do. It's about how you're asking them to do it, and getting clear with a sales pitch to your team to say, hey, you know, we should do this thing. Here's why, and it'll be awesome for you. And like, just try it and we'll be good. So as an example, you know, whenever I take over a company, I like to talk to a bunch of the customers, effectively do a one-on-one, like NPS analysis. Hey, you like us? You not like us? Why don't you like us? Tell me more. What can we do better? What can we, you know, stop doing?
And for those, let me stop you for a minute. For those who don't know, NPS is Net Promoter Score, just so you can follow along.
Right on. And so, and yeah, actually just to build on that, so Net Promoter Score is really important for a business like HOA management because you typically grow through word of mouth. Like a person on a board of one HOA might be on the board of another or know somebody who's on the board. So they always ask each other, like, what do you think of your management company? And so Net Promoter Score literally asks, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? We had a -50 Net Promoter Score out of -100 to 100. So, and the industry average was 7. So they're not doing great, but we were definitely not doing great.
Right.
And so I put that on the board. Everybody knew I was doing this. And so I put it on the board and I was like, look, like that's the score. Here are some of the things that people are saying. Not, you know, don't know what's going on, unresponsive, you know, never about work quality, but it was mostly about like the interaction. And so I would say, like, does this represent the level of hard work and self-sacrifice you guys are making? Everybody's like, no, man. They were like really frustrated, not at the clients, but how it was translating externally. And so then I said, if I could give you 3 things to do differently that would solve this problem, would you be open to it? And then they were like, yeah. And so like the first one was we instituted an end of week email to all the clients to be like, this is what we did for you this week. That in itself took a huge step up, but the people were resisting it beforehand. Like I usually test things with a small group of people first, and they were resisting it because it felt like work and blah, blah, blah. And I knew it would be effective, but it was about how I sold it to them and the narrative that I was able to tell so that they could get it in their head that they need to do it and the impact it would have that got them to do it. And then once they did it and they started getting the positive results almost immediately, clients would reply and be like, oh, this is so great. I've been waiting for you to do this forever, blah, 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 blah. And then they would forward it to me and be like, look, it's working. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's working. But that's like a very simple example, and there's like more complicated ones, but the message is consistently the same. Like you have to we're gonna use a very from Texas, so sometimes I slip into like cursing references.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm paused myself.
They're used to that.
No, man, I paused myself. So but I think that there's there are a lot of opportunities to just like wrap the message in a really, really like sweet tasting coating.
Very good. I love that. How did you fund the businesses? Did you take on investors, or did you and your partners fund it all yourselves?
We ended up funding the equity ourselves. We had a seller note for that one, but then we funded the rest with equity. I'm in the process of raising a fund right now, and we are, you know, raising capital from high net worth folks, all equity. So yeah, and that's you know, I saw this and I don't remember if it was like a research paper, but it basically showed that the typical size of business in a community is really a derivative function of the amount of money you can raise from friends and family. And so it's highly dependent on like the not just the average net worth in a community, but also the like the median net worth. So what's like the distribution of net of capital. Because if you think about it, right, like I saw in your planner for this, it was like if everyone if 10,000 of us put in $100 and we have $1 million and we can go buy that, like I had this conversation with another cat who was like, I want to have this platform for people to be able to, you know, organize their money and invest it. But like, yes, that is possible. However, not everybody got $100. Like, so, and like, that's just the reality of life. So in our community, then what you can reach for, like, I don't have a rich uncle who could give me a $2 million check. You know, I'm out here hustling. I built up a network over a couple of decades, and it's still like pulling teeth to try to figure this fund out. Whereas some other people I know, like legitimately, they were running their startup and they were, you know, doing the like I'm sleeping on the couch thing, but their parents were paying for their apartment in New York City, or their uncle gave them like $500,000 as a seed money check. Yeah, and so like I got that, you know, my mom is from the Philippines, my dad is from the country in Texas, like they don't got money. Like I've been self-sustaining since I left home, but you know, with some smart savings and some smart investment decisions, like you can figure that out. And then there are also like deal structures that maybe allow you to get that from places that you might not normally get it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I love that we're having the conversation, because in our community here at the 10K Project, you know, we are the everyday investor, right? That's kind of what we tout ourselves as. Some of us are accredited, some of us are not. But what we have in common is that we're working towards making those wise financial decisions, right? We're learning how to save, we're learning how to invest, we're learning about alternative investment strategies that allow us to get ahead. And then the other thing that we do is every Tuesday, we bring deal flow to this community so that they can invest, right? And we intentionally do that with Black founders. And so some of those are investment crowdfunding opportunities. Some of them are private placement opportunities. But that's one of the things that we're doing here in the community. Where we run into roadblocks often is for those members who are not accredited, but they are savvy and they have saved and they have made good life choices. So they have money, right? And unfortunately, the way the law is outlined, those people miss out on some of the really good opportunities because they don't meet the accreditation rules, even though they have more money than many who are accredited. And so trying to figure out for this community, how do we bring them valuable and quality opportunities, right? So they can continue on their wealth building journey. That's becoming a challenge. And so even hearing, you know, you've got a fund is great, but you're only accepting money from high net worth individuals. And so how does that middle class person that's done the work, they did everything right, how do they get the early seat at the table for some of these really amazing opportunities that are out there?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't have the answer for that. I definitely think it's a problem. And the things that were going through my mind were just thinking about deals that are less dependent on securities law stuff. So simple examples of that might be like smaller businesses. You know, between businesses and real estate, like just generally, the way I would suggest folks think about them first are incredible tax shields, right? That's like, I've heard this described, like small businesses are the best tax shield in the country. That's not totally wrong, right? So going back to the vending machine example, if you could have vending machines that took digital payments instead of cash, then you know, you could actually build an infrastructure around it. But you don't need $5 million to buy that. You know, you can get it for much less. And in those deals, right, for Reg D, you can allow unaccredited investors up to a certain number into deals like that. Exactly. So I make that point to say that like sometimes it's about targeting the right assets, and then thinking about how to utilize them, right? So it's funny, man. When I had this meeting earlier today, where another guy who's done some acquisitions, but isn't like focused on it, was just giving me like a perspective of a deal he did. He set up a deal with a seller who told him one of his priorities was, or one of her priorities was, ensuring that one of the nonprofits she really cares about gets funded, and she wanted to maximize her taxable giving. So they structured an agreement as part of the seller note that he contributes $20,000 to this charity for the next 3 years.
Wow.
And so I make that point to say that like you can do that when you own a business also, right? Like you can acquire a thing and then, you know, if maybe you don't take the full salary down, but if you are able to live the lifestyle from that business in a way that allows you to affect the things that you care about. Like for me, you know, one of my goals is to get to a place with a few of my assets to where I could just like fund a scholarship to Morehouse every year. And it's like, great, cash comes in, I'll just spend it from the business as a charitable donation. And that's significantly more impact and value that I could have extracted than having taxable income come to me than giving it. So, and that's why the tax code's written that way, is to encourage that kind of stuff. So anyway, my point is that like you have those opportunities. If you have the time and energy, you could go find like, you know, local properties that maybe, especially one of the things I've dreamt about is like figuring out community platforms where like Miss Auntie down the street maybe is ready to move from California to Alabama, but wants to sell the property in community, and finding ways to capitalize those acquisitions for a family that doesn't have the whole money. And that's another perfect opportunity for folks to get into a deal that, you know, if you have less than 35 investors, like could work. And that could also be an equity or a debt opportunity, which debt has a more flexible securities law. So there's just like a lot of opportunities. I don't have a perfect idea. I just have ideas, but I would encourage to just continue to be creative, because, you know, 35 is a lot of people to be in a deal. So you can figure something out.
Right. No, very, very good. And that's how we used to structure our deals. We tapped into that 35 and we kept it well under that to help fund businesses that we bought. I love that you brought up kind of the be creative. A friend of mine just told me that there's a Black neighborhood in LA that they are trying to prevent from being gentrified. And the only way people talk about when the property is either for rent or for sale is they do word of mouth. They don't get listing agents. They don't post it anywhere. Literally, they just talk within the community because they're trying really, really hard not to have this community be anything other than Black. And I thought first of all, to get the community, right, a whole neighborhood to agree to that was phenomenal, right? First and foremost, because we're talking about, you know, if I can sell my house and can get more if I put it on the market, to get people to agree to keep it in the community, I thought was the best part of the story. But then going back to kind of the, you know, our old ways without technology, right? Word of mouth, being able to say, hey, such and such has this apartment for rent or this house for rent. And we need to do more of those creative things in the community. And you're right. And then structure the deal, right? So that it can work out for whoever it is we're trying to be able to get in a new position.
Yeah.
We need to do more of that. And that's that aspect of community, right? And all the components of that and how we work together and do whatever we need to do to make it work, because it's intentional. And so I think more communities should take a page out of that book, because I thought that was just an amazing story.
Right on.
Yeah. Any questions for Brian? Talisha, do you have any more questions for our community members? Do you have any questions? Brian, other than the fund, do you teach people how to buy businesses? Is that next on your things to do?
I have a course somewhere on Maven that I did with Gravy Wealth, if you've heard of them, to do like a 101 on buying businesses. So that was like the thing. And I think it's still live. That's Brandon. But yeah, I mean, I'm really focused on buying businesses, so I don't really have a lot of time to teach. But you know, if folks start looking at businesses and you want to have like a session like this or go through it, like I'm always happy to do that.
Wonderful. T-Shine, what were you going to say, my dear? I apologize.
I was curious about his fund. So what are your fund, what is your focus and what's your thesis for your fund?
Yeah, so you know, our fundamental thesis is that there are a lot of people retiring and that don't have succession plans particularly within their family for the assets. That's how I came up with the last business I got. My business partner got the business he bought last year. And it's just, it's a documented fact at this point. So that being said, we're raising 20 million bucks to buy 3 to 4 companies over the next few years, all equity. We don't want to be burdened by debt for capital structure reasons. We want to be able to reinvest the cash flow and growth and really grow the business and turn them into dividend paying businesses. So most of the people who buy businesses are going to have somewhere between 50 to 80, 90% debt. They're doing SBA or something else. And because of that, a lot of the cash flow gets absorbed to debt service. But, I was saying earlier, these businesses are, if nothing, if not a great tax shield. They should be ATMs, right? And you'll see this at the family office level. They'll buy one business with their wealth and then just siphon the cash or redirect it in ways like I'm saying, hey, we want to have the local children's hospital have an annual benefit that comes from this, or we're going to do a scholarship from the business and buy 10 tables at this, one college every year, whatever. And so then that's how they take their money, park it somewhere, but it becomes highly productive for them in other ways. And so I say all that to say, I want these businesses to be highly cash generative. So we're buying them, we're not burdening them with debt, and then we're just going to be collecting coupons from them and distributing to the investors. So we have 3 deals that are kind of serious right now. Hopefully we can close on one of them before the end of the year. The one wrinkle with that, just to talk about securities law more. So my business partner in that is a registered investment advisor and has his own independent wealth management practice, which is great for us because that is contributing some anchor capital to the fund. And also his client base is mostly entrepreneurs. So we have some opportunities to buy some of their companies and diversify them. But because of that, we are also subject to the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, which requires us to only take qualified clients as investors in the fund. What does that mean? That's not an accredited investor. That's not a qualified buyer. It's in the middle. Accredited investor, it's you got to have 200K income every year or whatever. Then qualified buyers, I think you have a net worth test of 5 million. Qualified client is right in the middle. It's you got to have 1 million, 1.1 million with the manager at his wealth management firm, or have 2.2 million of net worth independent of your house. So this is really funky middle ground. Anyway, I've learned more about securities law than I really wanted to know, but
That's interesting. I think it's interesting. They always throw that house in there as a disqualifier, like take it out. Most of us, that's where the wealth is, right? Because we put it in that real estate asset and they don't count it. That's so frustrating. I just want to, if I ever catch an SEC person in the elevator, I'm going to press the button and we're going to get stuck just so we can talk a little. I got some things to say. Goodness gracious. Very, very good. All right. This was really good. I may take you up on that offer. T-Shine is looking at a business to buy. And we talked about bringing real deal flow where we actually walk through the numbers with the community and make them make sense. And so, Brian, I may take you up on that when we get closer to that part of the process.
Please do. I'd be happy to. I'm happy to jump on and as long as you can tolerate a lot of dispassionate, slightly surly questions about everything. I'll be happy.
Used to that. Trust.
Diligence, Brian, is very different than this, Brian.
We've done that for 4 years. Don't worry. We know.
Right on. Yeah.
We're really good at that.
Yeah, I welcome it. Just hit me up.
This is wonderful. Again, we love this space of buying businesses. I joke that we had some deals go bad. They really went bad. That wasn't a joke. But we learned some valuable lessons from them. And all the lessons we learned, everything you just said here. So I leave this conversation feeling like we've got the right formula, right? Because we learned all the lessons we needed to learn. Nothing you said here was a surprise. Most of it, though, we learned the hard way. And so that was, this call is absolutely warming my heart, because there also has been this period of gun shyness, right? When you have a deal that fails, you're like, do I need to, like, I know this. I know I learned how to do this and I'm really good at it, but you don't want to fail, right? And so it's like, and you don't want to fail with other people's money. And so there's been this apprehension to do it again because of that. But now we know the right formula. We know the absentee owner is not a thing in our dictionary, right? It doesn't fit there. And so does not exist at all. We know now we've got to be visible. We've got to go in there and see what the system is, and then improve upon the system and implement change and embrace the people. All of those things you said, right? Not leave them on an island to kind of figure it out with this new management in place. So this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your time first and foremost, but then also your expertise with this community. We definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure. And just on the gun shy point, I'll leave you with this. There was a man in the Olympics that went like 1 for 25 up until he got to the last 2 games, and then he shot the lights out. So shooters got to shoot.
Shooters got to
the last
shoot.
game and keep shooting.
I needed to hear that, Brian. Shooters, because I'm a shooter.
She is, but, yeah. I'm the surly one, so this is that'll tell you. I'm just out. I'm old. I'm crotchety. I just want to sit down.
Shooters got to shoot, T-Shirt. We got to shoot.
And I'm not a shooter. That's I know who I am. So you keep shooting, sharpshooter. Go ahead.
I do have another question before we let you go, Brian.
Sure.
What are your thoughts about franchises? Do you think they're good business buying opportunities?
I think they can be. Depends on the franchise. I looked at, I was thinking about buying a franchise location for this business called Smash My Trash, which is basically like a truck with an arm that comes in to articulate and crush down trash in those big commercial bins. And one portfolio of franchises was really great, highly attractive, very great cash flow margin, a little bit of room to grow. It's capital intensive, but we didn't have to invest capital in it out of the gate. And then the other one was like too small and very different markets. So we ended up we missed on the first one because we found it too late, and then we passed on the second one for a bunch of reasons. But I think it just depends on the location, and then if you're willing to think about like more locations, because those businesses tend to be like, we have shown you unit economics of one, but you don't really get rich until you get more. So you have to have like some mentality around building a portfolio.
Very, very good. All right. Any questions for Brian before we say good night to him and let him get on with his life and loving on his family tonight?
Ms. Tracy says she wants to meet to do the due diligence with Brian. So she's like, that's her thing. We will definitely do that, Ms. Tracy.
Right.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir. Again, we appreciate you for spending your time with us. Thank you so very, very much. And I'm excited. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. And we'll chat again soon.
Okay. Good night. Good night, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow night's presentation. Wiggle's coming back tomorrow. Yes, Wiggle. So you guys remember Wiggle, the wireless energy. Wiggle's coming back. They've changed platforms, and he's got an announcement to make. They've got their new product that's getting ready to come out, so you don't want to miss this one. Amazing company. Dr. Glover is doing amazing work with his team, and they have, since they came the last time, they have really they've had some real good wins. They really have. So it could be an opportunity if you already invested to re-up. If you haven't, or maybe you weren't in the position at the time, this may be a good opportunity for you to get in. Talisha will be hosting tomorrow. As I stated, as you guys can see, I'm in a hotel room, right? I don't have you in my bedroom. This is a hotel room. I am traveling. And so unfortunately, I will not be here tomorrow. So please come live so y'all can show T-Shine some love in my absence. Especially since she said this morning, so she said she didn't have a good day today when I asked her how she was doing, and she was like, not good. So show my girl some love tomorrow. Come hang out with her. as she talks to Dr. Glover. All right, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And
Miss Tracy.
T-Shine said, we love you.
I love Miss Tracy. Miss Tracy is like, we just go together real hard.
All right, guys. All right. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye.